Okay, so we're still in the middle of the trial with Farina. This is when she's begging people to believe her and not to look at her with such cold and disdainful looks. So let's see how this continues.
Think about it! How can you conclusively prove that an Archon can't also be affected by the primordial seawater? Also, if I was really just a human, why would I dare to just put my hand in that kind of water? Please, anyone, just listen to me! I swear, I really am your Archon!
I don't think anything she says at this point will sway anyone. The odds are just too stacked against her now.
With all the things that have been said, Paimon doesn't think there's any way left for Farina to win.
I believe the time for arguments and presentation of evidence has come to an end. If there are no objections, we will move on to the final judgment.
Uh-oh.
I don't think anything she says at this point will sway anyone. She's just too stacked against her now.
Uh-oh.
In my capacity as Chief Justice, I shall now render judgment on Farina's misrepresentation of herself as the Archon of Fontaine. As a human who knowingly deceived her fellow citizens, Farina is guilty. We shall now turn to the oratrice mécanique d'analyse cardinale to render the final verdict on the charges.
What will it say?
According to the judgment of the oratrice mécanique d'analyse cardinale, Farina is
Innocent?
Well, what's wrong? What's the oratrice's verdict?
It can't be. Did the oratrice just declare Farina to be innocent?
No. The oratrice also displays a guilty verdict.
Isn't that correct then?
However, the exact wording of the verdict is thus: the Hydro Archon, guilty, to be punished via the death sentence.
The death sentence?
That's actually one of the available sentences? I've always thought that it was just a myth.
The one and only time the death sentence has been handed out at the court, and it's been given to the very person we've worshipped as the god of justice? What an unexpected twist.
Farina's been sentenced to death by the oratrice? We just wanted to use the trial to show her the seriousness of things so she'd tell us the truth. How did things escalate this quickly?
This outcome is indeed quite strange. According to Fontaine's current definitions of justice, as well as its recommendations for criminal sentences, is this sentence really appropriate for the crimes that have been committed?
Yeah, even Fauché wasn't sentenced to death by the oratrice. You know, the real evil mastermind behind the serial disappearances case.
What's more strange is, instead of Farina, the oratrice rendered judgment on the Hydro Archon.
Indeed. Not only is Farina's sentence overly excessive, the very point of our trial today was also to prove that Farina has never been the Hydro Archon in the first place. But now, the oratrice seems to have deliberately invoked the title of the Hydro Archon. What does this mean?
Okay, so it can't actually be Farina that was sentenced to death.
Excuse me, if I may interrupt.
Okay, so we just verified that Farina is not the Hydro Archon. So to invoke specifically the Hydro Archon and not Focalor or Farina or whatever name she goes by besides the Hydro Archon means that they're actually condemning the actual Hydro Archon and not Farina.
Is the trial still going?
Fremine! Huh, you finally made it. I assume this means you've completed your mission?
Mm-hmm. Any mission Father assigns to me will always be top priority.
Stone slate onto the stage.
Is that the first prophecy slate? Huh. So the knave privately arranged for Fremine to try and find the missing slate.
I looked everywhere and finally found it at the bottom of the sea. It took me a long time to get around some dangerous stretches of water. But has the trial already concluded? Then doesn't that mean I've come too late? Oh no. Father will be disappointed in me.
Don't worry, the mystery hasn't been resolved yet. It's still not too late for you to shine.
Thank you for your hard work, Mr. Fremine. Please allow me to review the record left on the slate. Traveler, I believe that you have already seen the other existing slates, and would like you to come here and confirm their contents.
Huh? So what do you see? What is it?
This looks like the previous Hydro Archon releasing her divine power, turning the Oceanids into human beings.
I believe I have now made sense of the Hydro Archon's crime. It has to do with Fontaine's lost history.
Huh? Isn't the Hydro Archon just guilty of deceiving her people? Oh, wait, no, that's Farina, and we've already proven that she's not the Hydro Archon. So when you say Hydro Archon, do you mean the real Hydro Archon we've been kinda talking about?
In truth, everything that you've encountered in Fontaine up until this point can be traced back to the contents of these stone slates. However, I'm uncertain as to how much sense they currently make to you.
An association between the contents of the slates and the events in real life.
Okay, let's try to recall the contents of the other 3 stone slates. Paimon will do her best to help you remember.
Select to check the description on the stone slates to extract key information from them. You can find scenarios related to the stone slate's content in the incidents recorded in the interview book. There you can verify said content. As the verification process continues, the fountain water level in the main interface will rise. When you have finished verifying all the stone slates, the truth behind the prophecy shall be revealed. Okay.
The first stone slate describes what you just said. It seems to show the previous Hydro Archon using her divine power, and then the Oceanids turn into humans. Does that mean that Fontainians are transformed Oceanids? Oh, Paimon wasn't expecting that. But if Oceanids can turn into humans, then perhaps this process can be reversed as well. The second stone slate shows Celestia floating in the sky, and the Hydro Archon and her people worshipping it together. But the heavens still brought judgment down upon them. This must be the point when the Hydro Archon and the Fontainians were branded with their original sin. Does this mean that the original sin and the Hydro Archon sin are the same thing? The third slate shows the Hydro Archon sinking into the sea surrounded by many people. That reminds Paimon, didn't we also watch that happen to someone else? Well, the fourth slate is the prophecy the Fontainians have been talking about. People dissolving into the sea, the Hydro Archon crying on her throne, and so on. We didn't believe that such a crazy disaster could happen at first, did we? But after that incident, it was just a question of when and not if.
Okay, let's start with the first one. Stone slate and the runes showing the history of the future. The first piece. It seems to show the former Hydro Archon using divine power to turn Oceanids into people. Turns out that Fontaines can be dissolved by water from the primordial sea. Over the years, Vashir kidnapped and dissolved many young girls for his experiments to try and find a way to bring back his wife, who had been dissolved.
We know from the case of the serial disappearances of young women that Fontainians can be dissolved in primordial seawater.
And the first stone slate tells us that long ago, the Hydro Archon used her power to turn Oceanids into humans. This might be the reason that Fontanians can dissolve.
It shows Celestia floating in the sky and the Hydro Archon and her people worshipping it together, but the heavens still brought judgment down upon them. Though Neuvillette believed Childe to be innocent, Oratrice judged him as guilty. In the end, even Farina didn't know why. The entrance to Primordial Sea is sealed beneath the Forbidden Zone in the Fortress of Masquerade, and recently the Primordial Sea has nearly broken out. It was only temporarily pushed back by Neuvillette's power. While exploring the ruin near Poisson, it began to collapse. Navia fell into the water containing primordial seawater. Only the protection of the dead members of the Spina di Rosulas prevented her from dissolving. And commented that would communicate with you by connecting your consciousness. She believes the possible will certainly happen, that you needn't give up all hope. After the court proved that Farina was not the Hydrocon, the verdict displayed whether Trace was actually the Hydro Archon guilty to be punished by the death sentence.
Perhaps what is about to take place has all happened before. The true sin of the Hydro Archon that Neuvillette mentioned, and the original sin cast down on the people of Fontaine by Celestia, as recorded on the stone slates.
The stones... Okay, it shows the Hydro Archon sinking into the sea, surrounded by many people.
It's not as simple as falling into the sea. When Navia fell into the sea, her consciousness was subjected to judgment. The stone slates show the people gathered around the Hydro Archon in the sea. Could that be alluding to the same thing?
Okay. It shows a scene that is basically identical to that described in the prophecy circulating throughout Fontaine. Fontanians will eventually be dissolved into the sea, and the Hydro Archon will sit alone on her throne and weep. Okay. I want to do this one.
That doesn't sound
The prophecy from the stone slates found its way into society, but not many people believed it at first. The fortress of Meropide was nearly flooded with primordial seawater, which we know can cause Fontanians to dissolve. It seems increasingly likely that the prophecy may come true. If we hadn't dealt with it in time, things could have gone very badly.
They'll dissolve into the primordial sea but won't cease to exist. Their essence will flow in the seawater, converge, and take the form of an Oceanid. The Hydro Archon was sentenced to death in court, shocking everyone present. Perhaps this means that her sin was actually Fontaine's original sin. Navia fell into the water inside those ruins, and she nearly dissolved. She was surrounded by the people of Poisson in a court within her consciousness, and was forced to take part in a trial meant to make her stay. The eruption of the primordial sea at the fortress of Meropide was the surest sign that the prophecy was about to come to pass no matter what. The prophecy's contents can all be verified by recent events. If we combine what we know together, loads of truths should come to light. Huh? Oh, Paimon gets it now! So that's how you can make sense of it. But then it feels like we're going to have to share some truly shocking revelations.
Let's hear them.
The first slate reveals that Fontanians are not real humans.
Incredible. Linny, did you hear that?
We're not real humans.
All Fontanians were originally created by the late previous Hydro Archon, with Oceanids as their basis. The evidence for that can be found in how only Fontanians could dissolve in primordial seawater, and how all the girls Vacher dissolved were also turned into Oceanids. Oh, and according to Navia, when she was about to get dissolved, she also saw everyone gathered around for a trial, all of them in the shape of Oceanids.
Indeed.
And the second slate reveals that the crime of the Hydro Archon was her creation of the Fontanians from Oceanids.
Yeah, and it follows from the content of the first slate that she probably angered Celestia by creating humans without prior permission. That could also explain why the oratrice judged the Hydro Archon to be guilty. It's to account for that ancient sin.
The Hydro Archon's true sin was creating us?
And yet, after many hundreds of years, the Hydro Archon's creations have turned around to try to judge the Archon within the Opera Epiclese. The twists of history are often the most unexpected of all.
As for the third slate, I'm still convinced that it should come after the fourth slate.
Yeah, isn't the image here just like when Navia fell into the sea? So wouldn't it be trying to show the image of the Hydro Archon also falling into the sea once the prophecy has been fulfilled in the fourth slate?
The fourth slate depicts the fulfillment of the prophecy as it's already widely known.
In the end, the people will all be dissolved into the waters, and only the Hydro Archon will remain weeping on her throne. Only then will the sins of the people of Fontaine be washed away. Did Paimon get all that right?
You've made some keen deductions. I must say, given how much you still don't know, it is impressive that you've already managed to connect so many pieces of the truth. However, while you were able to decode all the information on the slates, they've also been etched with an additional layer of hidden information using a different power source. When we were at the ruins, I tried to decipher the hidden information recorded in the slates. But since we only had 3 slates at the time, I was unable to come to a full conclusion. Now that the slate collection is complete, I shall make another attempt to decipher the narrative recorded within. If everything goes well, we should finally be informed of the unadulterated truth.
Well? Did you get it?
I believe I should share this truth not only with you, but with all the people of Fontaine as well. I will try to briefly summarize it for you. Your hypotheses regarding the origin of Fontanians and the sin of the Hydro Archon were both correct. In the Fontaine of old, the previous Hydro Archon sensed the yearning of her Oceanid familiars for life on land. The Oceanids were enamored with the beauty and romanticism of human beings, and wishing to have those experiences for themselves, expressed to the Hydro Archon their desire to become of a similar kind. However, even though water as an element is intricately linked with the power of life, the Hydro Archon, as one of the 7, did not possess the authority to create a new form of human life. Not one to give in, she eventually found a way to create permanent humanoid bodies for her familiars by appropriating the power of this planet's primordial sea. She poured primordial seawater into the Oceanids' blood vessels, creating humanoid mimics in the process. But if Fontanians were to ever come into direct contact with water from the primordial sea, the power within their bodies would escape these artificial restraints and return to the sea. As a result, their forms would collapse, and they would be reverted to their original forms as Oceanids. Of course, the Hydro Archon never received permission from the heavenly principles to create a new human race. And thus, the Hydro Archon and all of her creations came to shoulder the original sin of appropriating the power of the primordial sea. That is the true history of how the people of Fontaine first came into being.
So we were all Oceanids before we turned into human beings?
That's way too much information for me. I think I'm just going to pretend that I never heard a single thing. Wait, but if that's the truth, we can't let the Hydro Archon be sentenced to death. After all, her only sin was creating us.
This really might be too much information for your regular Fontanian, but it does answer a lot of our questions.
Alas, your hypothesis regarding the third and fourth stone slates was inaccurate. The slates' respective positions are, in fact, correct.
So they are in the right order? What is the third slate supposed to represent then?
A key point of the visual on the third slate is how all the individuals depicted in the water are humans rather than Oceanids. They have not been dissolved, which implies that the water depicted in this slate is not water from the primordial sea. The nation of Fontaine is the nation of Hydro, as well as the nation of Trials and Justice. Instead of being the literal element, the water in the scene symbolizes judgment and justice. You may also recall Navia's experience. When she fell into the sea, her consciousness was surrounded by that of many others who intended to hold a trial to determine her fate. Therefore, the meaning of the third slate is that the people of Fontaine shall try the Hydro Archon at the Court of Justice.
It can't be.
Yes, it refers to our present situation.
I think I'm following now. So, what you're saying is, even though we decided to put on this trial to avoid fulfilling the prophecy, in truth, everything we've done has happened exactly as the prophecy foretold. So now, it seems, we're the ones making sure it comes true.
What should we do?
I don't know. It feels like there's no way out of this.
Huh. No matter what, the prophecy will be fulfilled. Is this what it feels like to be a prisoner of fate?
If that's the case, does that mean the scene in the fourth slate will also be fulfilled soon?
Traveler, I would like to point out another small fallacy in your deductions. About the fourth slate, you probably thought that the eruption of primordial seawater beneath the fortress of Meripede served as the surest sign that the prophecy was about to come to pass, yes? However, I believe that rather than being a sure sign, that eruption could in fact only be a small warning of something far worse to come. As for the root cause of the catastrophe, I believe you've already encountered it once before.
I have? Wait, could it be?
This eruption was just a small warning of the things to come. We must find the root cause of the disaster.
What is the true source of the catastrophe? Verify truth.
It was both dream and reality.
If we're talking about a true culprit, that could only be that thing inside the primordial sea, right?
The truth, the original sin, the trial, and the root cause of the disaster.
Here we go. There's Childe! And he's gone. Has he been fighting that thing this whole fucking time?
That was way too close! How did that thing just burst into the opera house? Wait, was that the huge whale you saw in your dream?
Okay, once again, I'm going to have to end this segment here because this is going on longer than I anticipated. So that's going to be it for now, and I'll see you guys later.